we start to establish recognized patterns. And when those patterns are set and recognized, we get to do this real neat thing, and that is put that in our subconscious. And we don't have to think about it anymore. Example, riding a bicycle. All right, we all remember this. We get on the bicycle, there's the whole thing of the balance, right, and then the pedaling. One foot down, let the other one come up, keep that balance thing going, look where you're going, fall down, you know, you get a few skinned knees, some stickers in the palm of your hand, but you get it. And once you've got it, that's it. You don't ever think about it again. You're riding a bicycle. What has this allowed us to do with our consciousness? Well, now that I don't have to think about all of the details of riding the bike, all I have to really pay attention to are the differences and variations from the patterns I've already established. So when I'm riding my bike down the street and a car is pulling out, that's a difference, that's a variation. I've got a choice to make, slow down, maneuver around the car, whatever. But I can do that because I don't have to pay attention to pedaling and balancing anymore. On an even better scale, though, once I've mastered this basic part of riding the bicycle, and I can react to other things that are happening around me, I can start to do other things as well. I can start to check out the view. What's around me? Who's got lovely rose bushes? What's that bird in that tree as I'm pedaling around? Look at those kids playing in the yard. Or if I really want to apply myself, I can take the knowledge and the patterns that I've recognized, the awareness I have of how to ride a bicycle, and I can learn to do tricks. Jump on ramps, turn flips like the guys do out at the park every year for us. If I want to learn how to mountain bike, I can do that. Again, all these things that require more concentration, more awareness, more conscious focus. But what happens? You do it long enough, you learn it, it goes into the subconscious, you move on. Okay? So, when we're talking about calendars programming consciousness, it's on this level that I'm talking about. On the level of what we become so familiar with that we no longer think about it anymore. Until tonight, hopefully. So, how has a calendar been used as a programming tool? Well, let's talk about our Gregorian calendar. And we'll back up to the Julian calendar. Julius Caesar, about 46, 45 BC. Roman Empire is spread far and wide, has conquered, really, basically what it's doing is conquering indigenous peoples and assimilating them into the empire. But all of these indigenous peoples all had their own religious ceremonies with their own calendars and holy days and days when they paid their dues to their gods or whatever. And as Caesar was God, this was the reality of that time. Julius Caesar was divine. He was a god. And in order to keep the masses of the empire in reign, they needed a calendar system that would unite them all, still let them keep some of their individualness. For instance, if today Congress passed a law abolishing Easter and Christmas, wouldn't go over very big in the United States, would it? Probably riots in the streets and all kinds of things like that. Maybe even elections, I don't know. But Caesar couldn't have that kind of unrest because it takes a lot of soldiers to put down that unrest, and the empire stretched pretty far as it is, and he needs the tax money from these people. So he comes up with a calendar that's going to unite them all under one calendar with one god at the top, Caesar, and they could each have their individual little gods and their individual ceremonies and holidays. But in the end, you knew one thing. Caesar was God, and you paid homage to him, if not with your heart, then certainly with your mouth, because the penalty was death. And that was the end of the story. That was the reality of the time. So that's how the calendar was used in its inception as a programming tool. Now, Pope Gregory in 1582 had to make some major rearrangements, but now that the Roman Empire had fallen, that mantle had been picked up by the Holy Roman Universal Church now, and the new calendar was initiated with the proper changes. And like the Roman Empire, the church now, entrusted with the calendar, went forth into the new world, and everywhere that the church already existed, and wherever they went and wherever they were, they brought two things. They brought Christ, and they brought the calendar. And both had to be obeyed under penalty of death. End of story. That's the history, brief though it is, of our calendar. And a little bit of how a calendar works as a programming tool. So, if a calendar is programming our consciousness, and it's programming us about time, what kind of time are we talking about? This is where y'all get to help me out a little bit. Time. Time is, give me something out there. Time is, I don't know, it's fleeting. Time is art. I like that one. Time, who said that?
Me.
Phyllis, thank you. Okay. Time is money. Let's see if I can do this. We're going to abbreviate for T equals $. Time is money. Thank you for cutting to the chase. Really, because this is the ruling paradigm of our time and our calendar. Time is money. Let me carefully flip a page. I'm not knocking anything over. Oh, I feel so talented right now. Okay. I'm going to throw a couple of different words at you for time so we can get some different definitions here. And the words I'm using are out of the Greek, mainly because I had to study it in college and I never get to use it, and this is about the only time I ever get to. So, aha, here we go. One word for time is chronos. This word would be the kind of time we traditionally think of as mechanical time. We look behind us at the clock over there. This is chronos time. It's linear time. It moves in one direction and one direction only. Right? That's chronos time. It's also referred to a lot now as artificial time because it's mechanical and because it's based on a system largely that doesn't make sense as far as its divisions. And this chronos time has something we call a ratio or a frequency of 1260. All right? When I say chronos time has a ratio of 1260, I mean that our time is divided up into 12 months in a year, to 12-hour sections to the day, 60 minutes to the hour, and 60 minutes to the second. And that defines our time. Chronos, 1260 time, and we'll go ahead and write this over here. Time equals money. That is the controlling time paradigm of our culture and our world, really. I'm not bashing Americans. We're lovely people, really. No, this is, and as we'll see, why it's worldwide in a minute, but this is the ruling paradigm. Now, when we're talking about what the Maya are going to be regarding as time, has nothing to do with this, chronos time or linear time. Although the time that they track covers a lot of chronos time and a lot of historical events, some of which we will talk about. There's another word, Greek also, that's a pretty good word for describing this Mayan idea of time, and that's kairos. Kairos is a word that's used in the New Testament. And in fact, Jesus uses it in Mark when he talks about the appointed time in the purpose of God. Doesn't that sound better than time is money? The appointed time in the purpose of God. What is that appointed time? Well, I think Christ would have argued it's any time. The kingdom of heaven is here now, not coming. He said it's here. The appointed time in the purpose of God, or as it's referred to a lot these days, based on what we understand about how the Maya thought of it, that time is the factor of universal synchronization. I'm not going to try to write that up here. The factor of universal synchronization. In other words, time is God's interface with consciousness. This is how God interfaces with all of creation telepathically through time by synchronizing creation to further the purpose of God. What does that mean? Well, whatever you need it to mean. For the individual person that needs anything in their life at that time, that means that God wants to make creation synchronize in order to fulfill that need, because that is the purpose of God, is to see us do well, our consciousness expand, and our oneness again with the Christ consciousness. This is the overall goal. This is the idea of kairos time, and this is the idea that we're going to be dealing with tonight when we talk about time and what does time mean. Now, this kairos time also has a frequency, a ratio, if you will, of 1320. Okay? 1320 is what the Maya saw as the time ratio that God uses to synchronize creation in order to make everything work out the way it's supposed to work. It's as simple as I can put it. It's how God works throughout the universe to put the thing that you don't even know you need exactly where you need it, exactly at the time that you need it. That's the idea of time that we're going to talk about. So, two different kinds of time. The Maya are dealing with a different time ratio than what we're used to dealing with. Now, when we talk about Mayan time and how this 1320 works out, one very easy way to talk about it is the 13 back-tune calendar, which is known also as the long count of the jaguar priests, various names like that. It's 13 back-tunes. I'm going to write that up here. 13 back-tunes. We'll call them B's. B-A-K-T-U-N. That's how you write it. 13 back-tunes equals a period, switch hands here, of about 5,125 years. Okay? This makes it real simple for everybody. 13 back-tunes, the calendar that we're talking about right now that deals with the 2012 date, equals for us about 5,125 years. Each single back-tune of those 13 consists of 20 ka-tunes for a total of 144,000 kin. We'll get to that in a second. What we're going to talk about right now is where this puts us. So,